Hi, my name is Jonathan Dowdell. I'm currently a one-stripe purple belt here under Professor Draculino at the Gracie Baja Webster. In the Marine Corps, I was a corporal, spent 8 years, deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I was in from 2004 to 2012. I tell people that I feel Jiu-Jitsu kind of found me versus me finding Jiu-Jitsu.
I think I was in Brazil, working at my school in Belo Horizonte, and Oliver, he was the program director back then, he sent me an email saying, "Hey professor, we had a veteran that signed up here, and you know, he was injured in combat, and he lost his legs and all that." And I was like, made me think, you know what I mean, like, man, he doesn't have both legs. Oliver said, yeah, he doesn't. But I was like, man, cool. I mean, I'm the #1 fan of veterans, you know, I can't wait to meet him. And then when I came back and I met him, and man, it was kind of like we clicked right away, you know, like I normally get along good with military and cops and you know, I would say the combat people, and we clicked right away, and I could tell that the guy was just like an amazing human being, and more importantly, the most positive guy I ever met. I never saw that guy say no even once. I never saw him say the word no. And I'm just thinking with my head now, everything is yes sir, yes, let's do it, thank you. Tomorrow, yes, I'll be there. You know, and it was like amazing. Like right away I knew he was a great guy.
Really, I started my introduction into combat sports was in boxing, actually, and I worked it more as a physical therapy thing, actually, when I was still rehabbing. Shortly after my injury, a little over maybe a year and a half after I was injured, I started in boxing, and a great guy by the name of George Macaluso took me under his wing, pulled the miss for me, taught me boxing, and I fell in love with it. As things progressed, I started training at a gym, Team Quest. I trained under Brian Harper. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also, and that was his passion. And so he started me in on it. You know, he continued to tell me, you know, you would love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You need to get started in it. You know, so at that time, I mean, my injuries had already happened. I didn't know what I was capable of, what I wasn't capable of. I mean, I fell in love with it almost immediately because you know, my injuries had brought me down. It's, you know, from being a 24-year-old young, strong Marine down to being, you know, losing your legs and being laid up. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gave me the ability to keep going. It filled a void.
Nice. Yeah, I felt the hips hiking. That's no joke.
That's trouble's coming. Don't lose it, Johnny boy. Yeah, go back. Almost got me in the wrist lock there. Keep going.
Nice.
It was either the wrist lock or that.
The injuries came in on a deployment that we had to Afghanistan in 2010. I deployed with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. It was a couple months into our deployment, June of 2010, that I was on a foot patrol with Marines, and we went to make entrance into a compound, and I went to find an engineer to make entry into this compound, and found the ID the hard way. I stepped on it. Just a big blast right away that sent me into the air, upside down, landed in a newly formed crater. Immediately I had no legs, and my arm was very badly injured, and it was only the quick response of the Marines,
You breathing?
my brothers around me,
Can you hear me? Just keep talking to me, okay?
that got to me,
IED went off.
got tourniquets on me,
IED went off. You're gonna be okay.
did everything they needed to, and got me to an LZ and put me on a bird. And it was a couple days later I woke up in Germany, and several surgeries in, and I was 24 hours from making it stateside, and so I was medevaced, flew back to the States. My wife was right there and has been with me every step of the way ever since. She actually got a reputation at the hospital for not putting up with anything. The doctors kind of avoided her, because if they wanted to do something that, questionable, or they weren't maybe getting, if I wasn't getting seen enough, my wife was right there. She didn't put up with anything, and she probably went a day and a half or more without sleeping, just being by my bedside. So she's always been there for me, and continues to this day. Come pause for a second. Yeah, there were different steps to the physical therapy. I was in the hospital, I was in the hospital for a little over a month and a half before I was even able to leave the hospital for the first time after surgeries and stuff like that. And then it was physical therapy after that, several months, over a year really, that I was working every day and general stuff. And well, I knew instantly it would be life-changing, and it really was just learning my new reality. I went from having legs to not having legs very quickly, and it was, I learned early on about prosthetics work, and I'd seen it, had a little bit of knowledge beforehand, so I figured there would be opportunities to walk, but I didn't know the level of activity before that, or what my level of activity in the future would be. I was always really athletic, even outside of the Marine Corps. Obviously, you work day in and day out in the Marine Corps, especially the infantry. So I was always a very active person. I was a runner, really, which is ironic, but so really it was just learning my new body. It was trying to decide what I could and couldn't do, and it was just getting stronger. Really, that was the biggest part. I remember when it was an accomplishment to sit up on my own, because I'd gotten so weak. To transfer from the bed into a wheelchair was an accomplishment, and back was an accomplishment. It was very small things. I had both arms were bandaged up, both arms took a lot of trauma, so there wasn't a lot I could do. Relearning to shave was a big thing. So yeah, there was a lot from the physical therapy standpoint, and recovery, and like I said, just learning my new norm, adapting to what my new life was. I had positive moments. I had positive times, feeling good, feeling strong. But then obviously the mental side of losing your legs is pretty devastating. You know, it takes a lot out of you. You definitely have your bad days, but it's like when you get knocked down, you only have one place to go, and that's up. That's the way I felt. And that's why I fell in love with martial arts and boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu so quickly. Just because, you know, I fell in love with it because I'm like, I can do this, you know what I mean? Like, to be able to do some moves and roll and be able to be put in a situation to escape or get out of it, or, you know, get side control on somebody and think, man, I've got no legs, and I'm still able to
choke the crap out of them.
That's right. Yeah. Stay active, and I still felt whole. I still felt like myself. I felt like I was able to just keep that active lifestyle.
Man, let me tell you, it's a challenge because normally the legs, you know, guard and standing up and all that stuff. But one thing I remember that my master told me a long time ago when I was a kid, and I never forgot. Most important part of your body for Jiu-Jitsu is your hips, you know. And Johnny Boy, sure enough, has like a lot of good hip movements and a lot of good coordination on the hips. So I knew he could do Jiu-Jitsu. The challenge for us was to kind of adapt the classes that I'll be teaching to the rest of the group to him. And actually, you guys are gonna think it's funny, but almost everything I teach here, we can adapt to Johnny Boy. Everything. And in the beginning, I was kind of like looking and thinking. I'll get some of the instructors first to think together. And now it really flows. It's very natural. And the cool thing is that sometimes I forget to go and say, hey, Johnny Boy, you know, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, you can adopt this, and we're gonna adopt that. He does by himself. He already got in a point that he already gets the adaptation needed to do the techniques. So it's amazing. Like the other day, we were showing the hook flip from the sit-up guard, and I kind of thought, and I kind of forgot to go to him. And man, sure enough, he did like a super cool adaptation and variation that probably would be better than mine, that if I put my head into it. So it's working great, man. It's amazing that it makes me a better teacher because I have to think more and I have to be creative. It makes him a better student too because he needs to understand the core of the concept. So it's amazing.
There's times I forget, like, God, I don't have legs. You know, like I just roll and everything feels natural. That's another part of it, is what it does for your mind. You know, I just feel like so great, and it's just me competing in that moment. And if I'm getting smashed by somebody, or if I'm able to get the better of somebody, it doesn't matter. It's just, you know, I feel whole in that moment again. So yeah, there's some advantages in there that aren't expected, especially people that have never rolled with me or anyone like me go for something and go for a leg or something that's just not there. They start kind of chuckle sometimes and see like, oh, that's not gonna work. So there's some advantages, but just like everybody else, you know, I get put in my place plenty. And so yeah, there's give and take. You know, if you can just muster it up, and even if you've gotten whipped several times in a row and things haven't gone your way and you feel like you're not advancing, get up and get out the door and get to the gym. You know, I think that's across the board for a lot of things. But if you continue to go, if you get out the door, if you get your gi and get in the car and make it over to class, you are going to advance 100%. There's no doubt about it. You're going to get better the more that you're on the mat. So the number one thing is to not give up. And if you've given up recently, I would suggest looking in the mirror and deciding that where you want to go with things, where you want to go with life. And if you want to continue on, if you want to live an active lifestyle and pursue Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's just at 100%. Get your gi, get in the car, make it a class, and things will get better.
Johnny Boy is the living proof that Jiu-Jitsu is for everyone. He's the living proof of that. He could have all the excuses in the world to not do anything. And surely he could have a reason for it. You know, he already sacrificed what he sacrificed for his country. He could easily lay on his laurels and live like a hero that he is for the rest of his life. But he never misses one day of training. He understands that correctly, that not just him, we're never going to be able to know everything in Jiu-Jitsu, because Jiu-Jitsu is infinite. That's the word, infinite. And I am the same way. I would never say that I have a knowledge big enough to be expert in all areas. It's never going to happen. I know my limitations, and let me tell you one thing: there's nobody in this whole world that can say otherwise. Jiu-Jitsu is so vast and I would say infinite, that you have to understand and have to accept and be humble enough to know that you're never going to know everything. Nobody knows everything, you know. So in regards to people that say, "Oh man, this is too vast. This is too hard. This is like I'm never going to be able to know anything." Guess what? You're not alone, because nobody going to know everything in Jiu-Jitsu. Never, you know. So the cool thing is about the journey. It's about how you develop day by day. It's about how your game tends more to one side or to the other. You know what I'm saying? So first, the person has to accept that, be humble enough to understand that fact that I just told you. And second, a situation of John, man, what's your excuse? You know, I ask you now, what's your excuse? I hear excuses that I prefer not to disclose here. But there's one guy that came one day here. He signed up recently, and I'm not gonna say what he said, because he's gonna know who I'm talking about. But he came with this like silly thing. "Oh, I don't think I can train Jiu-Jitsu because this, and that." And then I normally don't like to do that, but I say like, "Oh, really, champ? Come on, can you come here real quick, please? Just 1 second." I brought him over there on the side of the mats, and I showed him Johnny Boy. He said like, "You see that? That guy never misses one day of training. He never complained once. Never in his life. Again, he never said the word no to me. And you come to me and tell me that. What's your real reason, brother? You don't have what it takes. You didn't like it. Now tell me the real reason." And then you know what happens? He said, "Yeah, Professor, I think I needed that. Thank you." And he's training more since that day, you know. So he inspires every day, everybody and all of us. And man, again, what this school is one before Johnny Boy and after Johnny Boy, I can surely say that. He's one of the biggest motivators of all times for everybody. And I hope his story gets more well known, that he can inspire more and more people.